One of the things that we were told at the very beginning of this was be yourself. And I tell people that all the time. God ain't gonna bless you acting like nobody else. You've got to be yourself in your space. And I'm oftentimes the youngest African American in the room. Sometimes I'm the only African American in the room. Sometimes I'm the only African American in the room that actually speaks up like he's an African American in the room. We've got to go back to the 1960s when we all decided that your struggle is my struggle.
So let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get to work and create a brighter future for all generations to come.
Together, we can change our community for the better.
Let's work together to create a community where we can all be proud, where every person has the opportunity to thrive.
I'm not gonna leave without that message being heard. I'm unapologetically me. I've been told that I was too articulate. I've been told that I sounded like a radio personality. Why can't a black man sound like that? Why can't a black man sound intelligent and articulate? Why can't a black man speak with passion? Why can't a black woman be heard and understood? Why can't she? Let's go. I'm sick and tired of the labels. I'm sick and tired of being told you too articulate. You sound too good. Excuse my language, Dad.
This whole purpose of this boot camp was to take what we learned and take it back to our people. And we can't do that with a cracked foundation. It don't matter if we're young or old. We all know what we have to do.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Lee, and I am the Executive Director of the Congressional-led Caucus Institute here in Washington, D.C. We're here today to talk a little bit about one of our programs, which is our Bootcamp program. And so Crispin Watson, who is our social media manager, along with myself, will be interviewing one of our boot campers who is a grad, Mr. Trey Baker. So Trey, I want to turn it over to you a little bit for now, just to tell everyone who you are and what you do before we really get into the questions about the bootcamp.
Absolutely. Hey, y'all. It's good to be here. I appreciate you having me. And I'd like to welcome everybody else to the Grenada group chat. Also, the Greater Pine Hill Missionary Baptist Church group chat. So we all have very similar backgrounds. But I say that to say I'm Trey Baker. I am from Grenada, Mississippi, graduate of Tougaloo College, graduate University of Denver Stern College of Law. I guess best way to describe my career is that as a political operative. But now as an attorney at Taft Law, I am a senior counsel over here. And sometime between being in Grenada and being at Taft Law, I was the city manager in our hometown in Grenada, Mississippi. So I served in municipal government, I was the counsel and legislative aide for Congressman Benny Thompson, who we've all worked for in some capacity. And then I served for the Biden-Harris administration first on the Biden campaign as National Director of African American Engagement, and then subsequently as Senior Advisor to the President at the White House. And so that's sort of where I got my background and my start. But, as a strong part of that was the training that I got with the CBCI Bootcamp, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that, Trey. So for those of you who don't know, the CBCI Bootcamp is a program that the CBCI hosts every summer here in DC. CBC members, all of our CBC members have the opportunity to sponsor one or two people from their congressional districts to come up to DC for political education, training, and boot camp. And so, Crispin, I'll turn it over to you if you want to get started with the first question for Trey regarding his experience with our boot camp.
Yes. So my first question is, I'm going to combine like the first 2 years. When did you attend the CBCI Bootcamp, and what made you decide to join?
So I attended the CBCI boot camp in 2015. And what made me decide to join was, one, I saw all of the wonderful things that alumni were doing. I actually had the experience. I was working for Congressman Thompson at the time that I went to the boot camp. So I don't know if I was voluntold that I was going to go to the boot camp, but I'm happy that I was, because I was able to not only get the training, but also meet people who I am close to this very day in my career. And so the thing that really got me is that I want to make this a career, right? I knew I wanted to. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do policy. I wanted to do politics. I wanted to help my community. I wanted to help Black people in my community. And so how can I best do that? I learned very early on that the people who make the laws and make the policies are the people who get to learn about them and know them best. And that's why I became a lawyer in the first place. Same thing applies here, right? Where I wanted to be a part of this politics thing. And so I knew I needed to learn how to do it, and I needed to learn how to do it at the Institute. And that's what made me go ahead and say, yeah, let me do this.
Okay, perfect. So Trey, what was life or business like for you before boot camp?
Before boot camp, it was, I had been a participant through the CBCF in the internship program. That's how I met Congressman Thompson, back on the campus of Tougaloo College. And I continued to, work with the congressman, eventually came on staff. So at the time of the boot camp, I was a staffer for Congressman Thompson, and I had an array of, things that I had done to lead up to it. I had made this great network from the boot camp, and this great network from people I met at Tougaloo and in law school and otherwise. But I hadn't quite made the change to go into public service for myself at that point. And so I had been a staffer, but I hadn't been sort of in the main seat quite yet.
Nice. So what were you struggling with most at the time that you decided to go to boot camp?
I don't know necessarily that I was struggling with anything, but I didn't have a comprehensive knowledge of the process, right? Like, we know, like a lot of people, and this is a pet peeve of mine, folks who do stuff just to do it, right? Or run for office just to run for office, or try to get the attention just to get the attention. And, something that I knew is that, one, I believed in certain policies. I believed in equal rights for people. I believed in providing, if you're going to live in a city or live in a place, and your government needs to provide you with the resources that you need in order to get things done. But, I didn't necessarily know how to get from point A to point B. And I was sort of working that through, or how I got from point A to point B, what made sense for me. And that was something before the boot camp that I was, trying to work on and trying to see, okay, how do we get from this level of having staffed for a member of Congress, having done some things for myself and having practiced law, to going a little bit further in politics and in policy and actually getting out there and making some change.
Okay, perfect. So Trey, I know you and I, we actually worked together during the time that you were in boot camp. We were both in Congressman Thompson's office. So I remember when you did it. But let me ask you, what, if anything, may have almost stopped you from signing up? Did you have any doubts, any questions, like, things that may have prevented you from doing it?
So, I mean, the one thing I looked at is that I had already been a professional, right? Like I was a practicing attorney by this time. I was a congressional staffer by this time. And so the one thing that I thought maybe held me back was like, oh, maybe I'm already too experienced to do the boot camp. Maybe I don't need to, like maybe the subject matter is a little bit too pedestrian maybe for me. And I need to do something else. But I'm happy that wasn't the case. And that's the thing that I'd like to give to the folks who are listening and watching today is that, it could be anybody from somebody who's a public office holder currently to somebody who's never run a campaign, never done politics, maybe not even been interested in politics before this. And so everyone across the board, there's something for you in the boot camp. So there was, I was clearly not too experienced for the boot camp. I was not too far in my career in the boot camp to have done it. And there were folks in our class who, had never done anything like this before, but they were just interested in being a part of it. For some of them, either the member who sponsored them to come or Congressman Thompson himself saw something in them and said, hey, you should be a part of this. You should come get this training. And so for me, I'm happy that I got over that little thing that was in my mind about maybe I'm already too experienced. Maybe I know too much about this to begin with. So there's no experience level in the boot camp that's either too little or too great to come to this thing. So you could be a statewide office holder and still benefit from this. You can be somebody who's been in another career that's not related, in health or in engineering, in something else, in the arts. And you can still come to the boot camp and learn a lot about the political process and learn how to run campaigns and learn why it's important to you. So that's the thing that may have stopped me, but I'm really happy that it didn't.
Nice. I love that. So what was your first impression when you got to boot camp? Were you excited? Were you nervous? Kind of walk us through that first day.
Well, the first day was interesting because you meet up on the first day at least back in these days, you met up at the townhouse at CBCI where everybody is. And so you're meeting your colleagues, you're meeting your cohort that you have there. And you go from there way out into Maryland. What's great about going out to, and it's, why is it slipping me? Piney Point?
Piney Point.
Yeah, so we go way out to Piney Point to this training facility that's out there. And so you're by yourself and you're restricted and you don't have a lot going on. Cell phones don't work very well. And that's intentional, right? And that's intentional so that you can be completely involved. You can be completely deliberate. You're not going to have too many distractions for you out there. But I think my first impression was this is a very long bus ride to get out to Piney Point. And I have, because at the time I was living in DC or living in Maryland. So I was just like, man, I could have just driven out here and been a part of it. But I was being a part of the group and being a part of the team. And so we went out there and everybody got together. And, my first thought was, it's important because we learned a lot from each other, even from the time we were at the townhouse to the time we arrived at Piney Point from each other. And so I said, okay, the congressman has something specific in mind. In the same way that Tunica is like that, and the policy conference in Mississippi, which is coming up, which you all should sign up for. Registration is open. I'll do the commercial for you. It's all good. Registration is open. Y'all should sign up. Sponsors, you should be a part of Tunica. But Tunica is the same kind of thing where you go out to somewhere that's sort of remote. It's in Mississippi. Maybe back in the day, cell phones didn't work too good in Tunica. But the reason that you do that is because you want people to be intentional with their conversations. Sometimes the annual legislative conference can get real busy and everybody's trying to go and have, go to the party, get the tickets, get the wristbands for this, that, and the other. And some of what you're doing gets lost in the shuffle that's associated with that. There's a lot of good content, a lot of good things happening at the convention center, but it's just a lot on people. This is very deliberately quiet, right? And it's very deliberately putting people in situations where they're not very distracted by things. And so that was my first impression, was like, oh, we're going out here for a reason, so that we can work with each other, so we can pay attention to the content that's here, and so we can make some genuine connections.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for talking about that part of it, Trey, because I was going to ask you about, being in that secluded space where there's nothing to do but focus on what's put in front of you. And I also have a shared experience, because the first time I went to Piney Point was with, back then, this was back when Miss McCraven and Pat Ford was still doing it. And they sent a car to bring me out there. And the young lady who owned that transportation company back then, we became friends. The ride is so long, Crispin. We and I became friends, and we're still friends to this day, just on a ride. Didn't know each other when she picked me up. We're still with Facebook friends. She might be watching now. As a matter of fact, Trey, we used her when the Diamond Project came up here, DC Nation Tours.
Yeah.
I met her when she took me to Piney Point.
See?
So no, it's
That long.
and you met her.
That's exactly how it works.
Birthday. You met her at a birthday. You probably don't remember her, but you met her at my birthday one year. But
yeah,
that's how we became friends. But speaking of being so far away from DC, were there any moments that you got to engage with CBC members? Are they included in the programming in any way? I know there's a Hill Day. Can you talk to them a little bit about that part of the program?
Yeah, and it depends on your year, of course, and everything isn't the same, but CBC members will come out to visit Piney Point. CBC members will come out and be speakers in the same way that for the foundation, you have CBC members to come and do that Friday talk all the time. And then everybody's able to come to the Hill. So it's a sort of how the process works is folks are nominated by some folks are nominated by their members. Like there's an application process, but then you get nominated or you can get support from a member of the CBC. And so through that process, a lot of folks are already engaged in it. A lot of people are already big on what the Institute is doing. And so people are connected to members already, but coming to the Hill and getting the opportunity to, after putting what you learn to use, and then talking to members about it and seeing how they got there and they got to their specific place. One thing that I learned in that process, although I had, I was working on the Hill, so I knew members of Congress. One thing that it made clear to me was that all members of the CBC are, they cold in their own right? Like everybody had to come through, win their district some kind of way. They had to be somebody. They had to have 700,000 folks in their districts who trusted them to come and be their representative. And so while they all have different personalities, they also all have something, they all, cold-blooded and can get the job done. And they're focused on helping people. And that was something that I realized that, these members all have a part of this, and they all have different stories about how they got here and how they came through. And I think what that was illustrative of is everybody's route isn't the same. Everybody, I thought my route was, I had been class president at Grenada High School the whole time, and I've been Mr. Tougaloo College. I'm just going to go through and just do this, and I'll be president of the United States one day, and that'd be great. And so I thought it was just like boom, 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 boom. But there are so many twists and turns that you get. I never had a clue that I would be in Denver. I would go to law school in Denver. And from that, I have relationships out there. I never had a clue that I would be, senior advisor to the president or work for Joe Biden in any kind of capacity. But it was these kinds of relationships and these kinds of friendships that made that happen. And so that was key when we started seeing members, is that every member has a different route to how they got there. And this process made that even more clear for me.
Okay, perfect. And shout out to you also, because when you was working for President Biden, you used to have me and my friends and my cousin and everybody else through the White House at all the events. So shout out to you for that. Shout out to Grenada.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's another part of like the Institute and like what it's about, giving people opportunities and access to stuff. And I felt like that was apart. Like there are very few people, who are from Grenada, Mississippi, who get the opportunity to work in the White House and work for a president and a vice president in the United States. And so that's not something I want to gatekeep or hold up to myself. So, I mean, members of my class, we invited to the White House. Anybody I know, I tried to have more folks from our community come to the Easter egg roll than anybody ever. So everybody I knew who had kids, everybody I knew who had anything, we tried to invite them in and get them there, and then also engage them with the process. I mean, I was happy to, with the Diamond Project, when you brought that group up and the group from the 100 Black Men in Grenada, to give them access to what was going on, when we showed the Emmett Till film at the White House, and to bring them here, show them some different opportunities. And that's ultimately what it's about, is creating a universe of people who have the access to these different kinds of programs and these different kind of opportunities that a lot of times in our community they don't get. And so that's why things like the Bootcamp, CBCI, so important, because if it wasn't for this, so many people wouldn't have these kinds of opportunities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Diamond Project was in Essence Online fooling around with you. So shout out for that too.
Yes, I love that. So it sounds like boot camp really played a part in you kind of getting to where you are. So what was a moment during boot camp that really shifted your mindset?
A moment during boot camp. I think like during boot camp, we put together a whole campaign program. So that was one of our activities. And sometimes boot camp in terms of content changes from year to year. So as I'm saying this, it might not necessarily be exactly what happens, but in ours, we were putting together a campaign in order to run a candidate for X, Y, and Z position, and what you need to do, the type of funds you needed to have. You needed to know the win number. And that was something that I hadn't really dealt with before, is the economics and the sort of organizing around large scale campaigns. And so in putting that together and putting together an engagement plan and putting together, who's going to run what and what the actual design of the campaign, the types of messaging that we'll be having in the campaign, will be saying, that really actually helped me a whole lot. I had no idea that, 5 years after that, I'd be running or helping to run a presidential campaign, right? And so thinking about those things that I learned there immediately helped with what we were doing with President Biden, because I thought about it in those terms. I thought about it in very localized terms. So when we were when Joe Biden had lost in Iowa and had lost in New Hampshire, and it kind of looked lost, we sort of got back to fundamentals within the campaign. And one of those things was basically running him like he's a local candidate in Las Vegas. And so when he came to Nevada and he ran, we took him to the Classic Jewel, and we took him to the community center over there. We got with Stephen Horsford, and we took him over here with the Legislative Black Caucus and Danielle Monroe Moreno and all those folks. And so those organizing principles that we learned in the boot camp were things that just naturally came back to me, like, okay, we got to break this down, figure out what it's going to take for us to win, put together a plan of action for it, and go forward with it. And then we go from Nevada to South Carolina, and the rest is history with, Mr. Clyburn and Congressman Thompson and at the time, Congresswoman Fudge, Secretary Fudge, Cedric Richmond, all getting together and sort of putting together a plan to win South Carolina and win on Super Tuesday. And so that right there, and learning those pieces about campaigns and doing that model campaign project was probably the biggest shift for me, because I really had to think about it. I had done campaigns before. I had volunteered for campaigns. I had worked with folks. I had worked with Congressman Thompson going down to Mississippi and worked it at a very local level. But thinking about it in the way that we did the exercise was perfect, and it sort of set me up to have success on a national level.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Well, you answered the first part of my second question,
Mhm.
but I will ask, I know, like, given what you're doing today, is there one thing that you learned during the boot camp that you still use today?
Well, I'll say this. I'll say not something I learned, but something I continue to do, and it's keep my relationships strong. I think in the boot camp, there are folks, and I got a group chat that I'm in right now that I'm talking to. They said they tuning in. So what's up, 2015 cohort? Love y'all. And I can say more about that, but keeping the relationship strong and for lack of a better way of putting it, like not being a bad person and really locking in. And so the folks that I met in the boot camp and the relationships that I've had are folks who continue to be with me throughout. During the campaign, it was actually a really tough moment. I know, Andrew, you remember this time. I was engaged and not engaged. I had personal stuff going on in my life. I was running a campaign all across the country, and I had classmates who came and recognized at the time. These are my CBCI cohort, but they recognized at the time, hey, Trey needs help, and so Kim Hunt, Ciatis, DeAndre Eberhardt, these folks just came, and DeAndre was on the campaign, but these folks just came and wrapped their arms around me and said, hey, I don't know, that we could be helpful, but we know you need people. And we were running ourselves thin. We were in the middle of COVID. And so my classmates were folks who really came up big for me during that time. Amber Thomas was really strong in helping what we did. Christine White, who was in my class, put together events that we did in Georgia because we were doing those big outdoor campaigns. And so she put together a big event through her organization that she was working on in Georgia. And we did an outdoor drive-in rally down there with her. So those relationships remained strong and remain to this day a constant thread of what we do and who we are and how we help and pour into each other. And that's really the thing that I take and I remember is that, my classmates, and we do this for each other all the time. I was going to make sure I mentioned it, but we had one classmate to pass away, Babatunde Okoye, this past year. And, as a class, we put things together and tried to be supportive of his wife, Lauren, and their kids. And, Babatunde is somebody who, whenever I was in New York, I was in Harlem, and I just called Tunde up, and him and his family came and took care of me, took me out to dinner after church. And so that, and I just want to, shout him out. He was a phenomenal person, a judge in New York, a person who saw the boot camp, saw what there was to do in the boot camp. And he was the first of us to leave the boot camp and go run for office. And so he basically took his little notebook he had in the boot camp, went back into to Brooklyn with it, and said, all right, I'm gonna run for judge. And he went and did it. So just want to shout out Babatunde, but make the point that, I mean, we met each other then, and we're gonna take each other the whole way. And those relationships are really strong and really powerful. And that's the thing that I would take is just it's important to be good to people and maintain your relationships.
Okay.
Yes, very true. You kind of answered part of my next question was,
my bad, I'm jumping.
Which was, are you still in contact with people that you met at boot camp, which you said that you are? But how was the environment like being around other driven individuals?
Yeah, so yeah, definitely still in contact with them. They in the group chat right now.
They're
One-
commenting too. They said, "Love you, bro, and love supporting you."
Oh,
Class
man.
of 2015.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Shout out to the class of 15. I love them. They're phenomenal. They're amazing. I've done business with my classmates. I have run campaigns with my classmates. I, just hang out with them from time to time. DeAndre, I know you DJing at Good Love. Sometime I'm gonna come see your DJ set over there when I can. Like that's the kind of class that we have. People went on Kendrick Faison in North Carolina. He's got this big GIS business. So many people, and I shouldn't start naming names because I'm gonna leave everybody out. But folks are. I love my classmates, and part of that is that experience of getting there, getting in the middle of Piney Point, not having anything to do. Piney Point might be the only place in the world that really doesn't have cell phone reception. Like it's still like you got to stand over in a little corner right here by the water, and then you got to be 6 o'clock in the morning. Like that's the only way you're gonna have reception, and that is wonderful because we really got a chance to get to know each other. So yes, to answer that first question, absolutely still deal with them. Being around other driven individuals is so important, right? Like you never want to be the smartest person in the room. Like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And so there are so many ways that like when you go into rooms like this one with the CBCI and with the boot camp, that you're not going to be the smartest person in the room. You might be good at what you do, but you're not going to be good at what everybody else does. You have folks who are creatives. The good brother Eugene was a creative. And so he had a lot of different ideas about things to do in social media and what he does here, what he does there. Other folks are more organized than you, and other folks are way more radical than you are when it comes to policy or something else. And so I think it's important to be around rooms where you have other driven individuals, other folks who are there. The important thing is that everybody is there ultimately to help Black folks, right? Like to help their people, help their communities, help the community around, the country too. Not, just Black folks, but important that they understand that, helping Black folks is important. And that is an environment where creativity can occur. That's an environment where good ideas can happen. It's an environment where you can strike up relationships that will continue throughout life. And so I think it's important. If you're ever in rooms where you look around and ain't nobody doing nothing, you should keep on pushing, because that's not where you need to be. And the CBCI boot camp is a great demonstration of just how important it is to like really get in places and environments with people who are equally about the program and about the life of getting folks who are going to do good things for their communities elected into office and learn that process. So I think being in that environment, it's inspiring. If I were to use one word, it's inspiring to see people who are doing things, folks who had already done so much. It made me want to do more. It made me want to be better. It made me want to stand up for my community a lot more. And that's what happens when you're in rooms like that, is that you're going to come out, you should come out of there wanting to do more, wanting to be excellent. And that's what the boot camp did for me.
Okay, perfect. So just from knowing you, and I mean Crispin too, Trey, we know just in general you've been very successful in your career. But I guess I would ask, what changed for you after boot camp?
After boot camp, and I keep going back to the network that we built, I had like an instant network just immediately. Like we met each other at boot camp. Everybody came, not everybody, but most folks came back for ALC. And so we hung out. We had like a little mini reception during ALC, hung out, cooked chicken. It was great. But it was a phenomenal instant like group. We had a team and we just kind of traveled with that team. And so that was the immediate change, is that I know that I have a group of folks to access. When we were doing the campaign stuff and I was in certain cities, I knew that there was somebody I can call in that city or that area. I know if I'm in Indianapolis, I can call Ashley. I know if I'm in, Atlanta, I can call Christine. Like, I know that these people exist and in these places, and that's very powerful. I think it's strength in numbers. And so when you have immediate gang approach to things, then it's like, oh, okay, all right, I'm good. And so that's what changed immediately after. Looking long term at what changed after was it really gave me confidence to say that I can deal with folks on a national level, that I can deal with folks in this space. So many times, I think there's like imposter syndrome, and people believe that they can't necessarily, like, I remember this, just in my own experience. When I first got into national politics, I really was relying on other people and what they thought and what was going on and all that. And I, had to go back to my training over the course of time, and my training in the boot camp and places like that, and say, you know what, I'm just as smart as these folks. I'm just as talented as these folks. I can compete in these spaces. And my instincts are good because of the things that I've done before. My instincts are better than most of these folks on this national political scene, because I've been trained. I have a background. I have a team of people that's with me. And so what changed for me is it gave me additional confidence. I've always, like I said, we all grew up together. So I've always been confident, except when I had to sing in the junior choir at Pine Hill. I had no confidence when I was singing Silver and Gold in the junior choir. But aside from that, I've been, absolutely confident in most things that I do. But sometimes when you hit this level of politics and this level of everything else, you get, you get that imposter syndrome. Am I good enough to do this? And usually when you get that imposter syndrome, you have to lock into those experiences that give you the skills, gave you what you needed in the first place. And that's what I was able to do. And the CBC Institute was one of those things. Like, I know I can compete in the national political space because I've done it. I've been around people who've done it, and I've been trained by some of the best to do it. Melvin Carter was one of our former mayor in St. Paul. He was one of our trainers, for instance. And so you got these people who have this tremendous background who are able to sort of get you locked in. And because of that, like, I had even more confidence that I can go out and do the thing.
Love that. That was actually one of our questions, is how did boot camp impact your confidence? So thank you for touching on that.
Yeah.
Can you share a specific win or a breakthrough that you've had since attending boot camp?
Yeah. We got Joe Biden elected president. That was the institute, man. The institute broadly, with Mr. Clyburn, Congressman Thompson, Secretary Fudge, Cedric Richmond. They are the folks who put together and had the thought process around the institute. The folks on the board, Derek Johnson, Angela Rye, all the, again, I got to stop naming names because I'm going to leave somebody out and somebody's going to be mad. But the institute, actually in the institute debate, if y'all remember, is the place where Joe Biden kind of took off and became the candidate, became the nominee. And so this thought behind, why you do this and putting people in place and giving them the skills to do it, I think that's the biggest win. I'm not going to take a whole heap of credit for Joe Biden necessarily, but we turned out more Black voters than had ever been turned out to go vote in a presidential election. And part of that was the training that we had put together with the Institute, but then part of that was the network that the Institute had built up across the country. And so, when I was going out and engaging with people around the country, when I worked for the first campaign, my first call was to somebody who was a boot camp graduate. 9 times out of 10 is somebody I knew as a boot camp graduate. And then, quite frankly, when it wasn't to a boot camp graduate, it was to a CBCF internship alumni that I had met somewhere along the way. And so those two organizations definitely played a part in that. And that's a huge win. But in addition to that, in Grenada, when I was city manager, one of the big things that we did was we put together a campaign to build a multi-million-dollar sports complex in the city. And we ended up having the single largest victory of a state and local initiative like that. 82% of folks in Grenada voted in favor of a tourism tax, an additional tax in order to build a sports complex so kids would have that as somewhere that they can go and something that we can build out and be an attraction for economic development in the city. And so that was a huge win for me after that, and a huge win for our community. But it was me understanding how to run a campaign, how to put together, knowing the win number, knowing how many folks in Grenada needed to vote to support this, and knowing how to put together a narrative around issues that are important. We learned how to put together sort of your communication strategy. And in that campaign, all we were asking was for 2 cents. So the campaign was to put a cent on hotels, a cent on restaurants, in addition to what you pay, and that would go to the tourism tax. And so, our narrative around that was, are your kids worth 2 pennies, right? Like, is it worth 2 cents for you to have economic development in your city? And that's one of those skills I learned, was how to put together narratives like that in order to drive the messaging that you needed in order to get the result that we have of over 80% of people. Now, y'all from Grenada, 80% of Grenadians don't agree on nothing. You couldn't get them to agree on whether, Hound the Hog or Catfish Corner was the best place for catfish, much less get them to agree on adding 2 cents to their bill when they go to one of these restaurants. And so that was something that I learned, and something that was absolutely imperative. And so those wins, whether it was presidential, whether it was local, municipal, all those things were a direct result of things like the CBC Institute and this boot camp in particular.
Okay, perfect. So, Trey, let me ask you, how did boot camp change the way you approach your personal or business goals in general?
It showed me, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but in terms of the folks who attended the boot camp, I saw that you had people doing everything. You had folks doing business in all kind of ways. They were doing politics in all kind of ways. They had started their own companies. They had run campaigns previously. They were either successful or not successful at doing it. And so I think the more, even for folks who are sort of seasoned professionals, the more you can see that people are out here succeeding in the world and doing things in a different way, and that opportunities are coming to people, it's actually so beneficial to be able to see that. And so what I learned and what changed with me is that I wanted to expand my approach to what I was doing. Like, I want to help run the campaigns, and I want to, maybe practice some law or practice government affairs work over here. And I know that I can do every single last one of those things I can do, because it's somebody that I know through the Institute who's doing that kind of work. And so I'm never more than a phone call away from being able to ask people, hey, how did you do this thing? How did you, I had one of our classmates, the one I mentioned, Kendrick, who does GIS, was like, hey, I saw this RFP for somebody who does GIS work. How do you do that? And so I'm able to make referrals to folks who I know are good people who are going to be able to do the work that folks are looking to do. And so I think for me, it just sort of expanded my approach to it. It expanded the network that I was able to have. And it more, I've always been told, y'all know my mama, y'all know my family. I've always been told I can do anything, but sometimes it's affirming to see it. It's faith affirming to see it being done, and the institute demonstrates that, and that's helpful. That's helpful to me also.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I love that. And we have a lot of comments here on Instagram. I'll just read a few of them out. Someone said, proud of you, Noob. Keep it going. Hashtag unicorns. Someone said, Catfish Corner is the only answer. Your sister said, Grenada in the building.
Right.
All the way.
Charlie Hill said, Trey is our brother. Our cohort is legendary. So it looks like you have a really good support
I appreciate that. And shout out to the unicorns, man. That's an inside joke. And so yeah, shout out to the unicorns. We love the unicorns where we come from. So that is and thank you to everybody who's come in, Charlie. We had a really good class and a really good group, and no matter what group comes together, some are closer than others. I like to say that we're the closest class. Like, we really ride with each other, and there are certain members of that class, Kim Hunt especially, who like keeps it together. Without some of them, we would probably stray. But we've got some folks who are our glue people who really like keep us together, and I'm very appreciative to them for doing that. Kim and Amber and the folks who really like, lock in with folks individually. So yeah, no, the unicorns was a strong group, and I'll put my class up against anybody that y'all got. Whatever class, whoever ran for anything, whoever made money, whoever did whatever, I'll put my class against them any day of the week.
Okay, I actually know, Trey, I think the most members from your cohort than I do from any of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because they still also participate with the institute. They come to the congressman's events, they come to the fish fry, they come to the fundraisers. They're really heavily involved, and I think that says a lot about the kind of people that we were able to put together. And it was, it's just a random happenstance that it was that group, those people, everybody who's that talented being in one place. But it's really good, and they're still participating. I get as it comes up on, CBC ALC week every year, somebody sends a text about, all right, what y'all doing? Who's going to be where? Are we coming? Are we meeting up? What are we doing? So somebody's organizing something, and there's at least a group of, no less than 6 who get together every time one of these events happens.
Okay, no, I think that's dope. I actually met Kimberly Hunt because of Bootcamp. When she wanted to attend, and she called the congressman's office and was like, hey, and normally I don't answer the phone. Whoever the staff assistant must have been at work, at lunch or whatever, but I ended up answering the phone when she called, and she was like, hey, I hear y'all have a boot camp. I'm trying to get sponsored. What I got to do? And I was like, well, I don't know if my boss got somebody yet. I was like, well, let me just, email me and I'll print it out. But that's how she and I became friends, actually, when she did a call about boot camp.
Yep.
I love that y'all are so close.
Yeah, and she'll lock in with you. She's gonna be your friend whether you like it or not. And is a phenomenal person who does phenomenal work, and really helped us when she was our leader when our classmate Babatunde passed away, and sort of organized us around that, and was in with Tunde's family and made sure that during that very sensitive time that we were, as a class, we were represented, but weren't being overly, doing too much at that kind of time. And so, very thankful to Kim for her friendship and everything she does for our class.
Okay.
Yes, I love that. So, I guess the next question was it worth the time and investment? Without question. It's worth the time and investment. It's worth applying. It's worth getting a sponsor to come do it. In every way, politically, very much worth the time. Financially, it's worth the time. It's a week out of your summer that you go and you participate, and then from that you get a lifetime of benefit on the back end. You get a relationship with the congressman,
And I think that's a very valuable relationship. I do want to shout out Congressman Thompson. Everybody knows how I feel about Congressman Thompson, how I roll with him, but he is one of the members on either side of the aisle, black, white, any other, whatever, who is committed to creating a bench of talented political operatives, of talented policy people, of talented folks, training them up. It's not just the institute. It's not just the boot camp. It's not just the 21st Century Council. It's the Mississippi Black Leadership Institute in Mississippi. It's the Tunica Policy Conference down in Tunica, Mississippi, that we do during the summer. It's the workshops that he does throughout the district. Every time that every time there's something important happening in his district or throughout the country, Congressman Thompson is there. He's going to be the person to lead us as we push back on things like ICE raids, as we push back on things like the DHS funding crisis that's been going on, as we try to get things back on track, as we deal with the politics of the day. Congressman Thompson is going to be the leader on that. And it's very few and far between where you have a leader that's so important to the national conversation, who's also over here trying to make sure he trains up people to go the right way politically, trains up people to be able to lead cities and towns, because he recognizes that, we need a strong bench of people to do all the other jobs. People see the congressmen, they see the senators, they see the president, but Congressman Thompson recognizes that it's the county supervisors and the city council people and the commissioners of this and that different board, the school board folks who are doing it. And so what the Institute does is it creates more and more folks. So I do want to thank the congressman for his efforts to put all of that together, because that's the most important piece of this, is that, I have friendships and I have relationships and I have folks that I can kick it with at all points. But also, I have folks who are in really important positions doing really, really important work. So, long way of saying yes. This was absolutely worth the time and the effort. It was worth the long trip to Piney Point. There's going to be an occasional mosquito, and it was worth the mosquito bites and everything else that went along with it to have done the boot camp, because it creates the situation that we have where we have folks who we can count on. We're going to need everybody we can in 26 and 28 to try to get things back on track. And the Institute is one of those things, and the CBC Bootcamp is one of those things that we're going to need folks to be able to do. And so, yes, it's worth it, not only for me, but it was worth it for my community. It was worth it for Grenada when I was leading there. I hope that it was worth it for the country when I was in the White House. And so, yes, absolutely. This boot camp alone helped a lot with so much of what I did. So, yeah, I can't say more about it.
Absolutely. Very good. Okay, so Trey, in your opinion, who do you think boot camp is for and who is it not for?
Well, I mean, it's not for people who don't want to do nothing. It's not for people who don't want to see change in their communities. It's not for people who are some both sides, sort of fence sitters. It's not for folks who look at it and say, oh, but what about what this person did way back when? It's not for folks who don't, who want to, sit on the sidelines and criticize on the sidelines. It's not for those folks. So if you're one of those, if you're a hater, if you are not somebody who want to be, a part of the solution, if you are problem oriented, it is not for you. If you are, averse to being out in the woods, it's not for you. They're those folks, But I think that those folks are few and far between. That level of hater, they are over here. And so we don't want them to be a part of it. They welcome, if they want to change their ways, to come and be a part of what we doing over here. The winners over here, haters over here. And so if those folks want to be over here doing what they do, that's fine. But who it is for, it's for people who want to see change in their community. It's for people who, whether you're long time experienced and have been a part of political campaigns, have been a part of, you know, whatever in the world that you could do, no matter your experience level, it's for you. It's for folks who may have problems with being confident in speaking or rallying people or organizing people together. It's for you too. It's for the young and the old. Our good brother Stephen Green, who is now a big time pastor, was a young college buck. Him and Clairvante were the youngest in our group back then. You know, Amanda Hargrove was one of those younger folks that was in that group. And then you got the OGs over here with me. I ain't gonna put myself up there as the OG, but I was sort of back then. I was at least mid range, but you know, you had the OGs on this side, and so it's the young and it's the more seasoned. So it's for you who want to be a part of it, whether you have run or not run. It's for you. And so I think if you're really wanting to understand the political process, if you really want to understand on how to build organizations, how to put together coalitions to win on policy questions, win on candidates, and to understand like what's the inside of that process like, I think this is going to be for you. You're going to want to come to the boot camp. You're going to want to see the process and how it plays out. You're going to want to talk to the people, meet the folks. And the last thing I'll say is that if you on that is if you want to create a lifelong network, I think once you get into the boot camp, you know, the congressman's going to continue to reach out to you. Y'all are going to continue to reach out to the folks from the boot camp, and so you have a larger boot camp community. I've talked a lot about my class in 2015 and how great everybody is, but you know, our colleague Corey Horton, who we worked with, did the boot camp back in the day. We've got other folks who've just done it over the course of the years who we know and who we've built things with over the course of time. And so not only do you get your class and your cohort, but you get this larger community of folks who have done the boot camp and folks who are a part of the institute that you'll be able to lock into. And so if you're wanting to do that, if you're wanting to be a part of the process, if you want to be over here with the winners, like I said, and not the haters, then you should come to the boot camp. You should apply to it. If you don't get into the boot camp this year, if not enough spots this year, then you apply for the boot camp next year. Continue to be involved in the process. Come, let people know. Come to the fish fry on the rooftop. Come to Tunica. Let the congressman, let Andrea, let Crispin know that you want to be a part of it, so that folks will be looking out for you, looking out for your application. Talk to your member of the CBC and let your member know that you're really interested. So if speaking back to who's this for, you don't have to be from the South. You don't have to be from a specific part of the country. You can be from any part of the country. You can be from a place that maybe doesn't have a CBC member, but you want to, be a part of it. You can go find somebody to sponsor you that way. So there's very few things that really will keep you from being a part of it if you do it. And so I see that the application is open and ready for people. The deadline is the 20th of this month. So, do your taxes, get them done and ready on the 15th. And then on 4/20, before you do whatever you do, make sure you get your application turned in. Like don't start the 4/20 activities before you get your application. You don't want to, you get delayed and then you won't get your application.
Get your application in. But that is actually a comment that we had on Instagram. Someone asked, what are the requirements to apply and how does one go about getting a sponsor?
So, y'all might be better to speak to the specifics of it. So
okay, well, I think you covered it. I was gonna go through it at the end, but no. In order to apply, you will reach out to your CBC member of Congress, or you will email us at bootcamp@cbcinstitute.org. And as far as getting a sponsor, like Trey said, reach out to find somebody to sponsor you. But Trey, because I do have you on here, and this is from your cohort, I thought you were gonna mention this sooner. A scholarship. that y'all are implementing this year, a brand new scholarship for a CBCI boot camper?
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. And so
Yeah.
our class are the leaders, right?
Yes.
We lead the way, and we want to make sure that folks have the kind of opportunities that we had to be able to do it. And so our class is wanting to sponsor somebody to come to the boot camp and do the thing. So at least one person will get to have the same experience that we had on the unicorns, on the 2015 cohort, because it's so important that we do that and that we give back in that kind of way. And so at least for somebody, there will be a scholarship that'll be just from the 2015 cohort, and that's something that we'll look to do and continue, just because the process was so important to us. And sorry I didn't mention that, but yeah, like that's a thing that's happening. And I'll do this. Put down a challenge right now. Anybody from any other cohort that's been watching this today and talking about, oh, Trey keep talking about 2015 and his cohort and all this. I challenge every other cohort to come up with a scholarship to sponsor somebody to come to the boot camp. And so we'll take as many folks as we need, but I'm putting out a challenge right now for other cohorts to match 2015. You can't do nothing with the unicorns. We the best to ever do it. And so y'all come, put your money where your mouth is. If you appreciate the boot camp, that's what we're gonna do. So I put down the challenge today to anybody to try to get with us in the unicorns. And so if we get enough people to challenge them, we're gonna kick it up to 2.
That's right.
I haven't talked to the group chat. I got to ask the group chat if we can kick it up to 2.
Okay, well, $1,500. Just know that's how much a scholarship will be. $1,500 for one person.
Yeah. So challenging all other classes to come to the table, put your money where your mouth is, and let's get the job done.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Trey. We appreciate that. We're looking forward to that. And for anybody, I know we're still talking to Kim, and Kendrick reached out to me as well. But once we get the details of how y'all want to do that scholarship as far as qualifications, then we'll be posting that on our Instagram as well.
Fantastic. We appreciate it, and thank you to the folks in our class who really lead on that effort. Like I'm the one, like I'm the quiet dude in the group chat where you know how you had that one person who don't say nothing the whole time, but like shows up at the activity that y'all been talking about on the group chat. I ain't got no preferences. I don't care where we go, what time we go. Y'all plan it, and I'm gonna be there. So in the same way, they took the lead on scholarship and on everything else that we do. And I watch the group chat until the decision is made, and then I show up. So yeah, thanks to them for their leadership in that way.
And it's special because it's in honor of your classmate who passed away.
Absolutely. That was one thing that, in addition to wanting to provide something for his family, was to honor Babatunde in this way. He really believed in the program. He believed in the process. He took the tenets that we learned in the boot camp, and he put them to work immediately. And that's so important. And so I don't think there's a better way of honoring or doing this than to raise his name up, raise his family up in it, because he was really the best of us in that way. And he did the thing. He did it in a very honorable way that was consistent with his community, with his family. And so many people are so proud of him. And so it's really the least we can do to make sure we keep Babatunde lifted up in what we do. And so that's really important. And again, thanks to our cohort for putting that together for him.
Absolutely. Christine, you want to ask him the final question?
I do have some questions over here in the Instagram comments. So someone said that they do not have a CBC member. So can you speak to that, how they would go about being a partner?
Email us at bootcamp@cbcinstitute.org, because like Trey mentioned earlier, some CBC members may or may not. Some of them don't have 2 people, some of them don't have anybody. So we can try to help you find a sponsor. But just email us and we can follow up with you on how you do that, because honestly, we do put it out there as people in the CBC members districts. But if you email us and we can work with you, we'll try to help you find a sponsor if you can on your own.
Yes, I have someone else that said, I'm class of 2015, but I want to contribute to start a second scholarship. So shout out to you guys.
Oh man,
Good.
here we go.
Someone else commented, I would love to help sponsor someone. I'm trying to get into this year's boot camp.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, again, Crispin has the email address on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to us.
Well,
Yeah.
we can go ahead. We can start on the IG Live, man. We can close the door on the IG Live. Before we leave here, we're gonna get one sponsor from the IG Live. So put your sponsorship into the IG Live, and we're gonna close the door on the IG. Don't leave the room. Don't put your phone down. Don't run now. Big deep.
This has been great. I don't have anything else. Andrea, do you have anything else that you want to say?
I do, Trey. What would you say to someone who's thinking about joining but is unsure?
Well, I mean, if I haven't been effusive enough, by now, like if you've sat and watched for some portion of the hour that we've been here, and it's not enough, then forget it, man. Don't come. Don't come. We don't want you. No, I just think if you're thinking about it and you're unsure either about cost or about travel or anything like that, there's ways. A wise friend once told me, don't let not having the money stop you from doing the experience, right? So that was like a road trip philosophy, but it applies in life too. Like if there's a way, there's always going to be a way. So if the financials are there are opportunities for scholarship, like we said, members are sponsoring folks individually, and so members already have in their budgets that they're going to sponsor somebody for this. There's going to be other opportunities to get it, and so don't let that. And then also, if you haven't been involved in politics to this point, but you do have an interest, don't let the lack of experience in politics prevent you from doing it. So many folks and people in our cohort even were business people. They were in other professions or other things, and they came and it led to them taking off in this fashion. And folks see it, and you can be inspired by it. So I just say, if you're thinking about joining and you're unsure, get the information. I'm available. The Trey Baker, Grenada, Mississippi is my @ on Instagram. So you can reach out to me. You can reach out to anybody in our cohort. I'm sure they'll talk to you about the process and talk you through what it takes and what you need and the whole nine. So I would just say, let us help you get through whatever questions or concerns you might have about the process.
Okay.
We do have another question here on Instagram. Someone asked, are you required to stay on site even if you live in the vicinity?
Yes.
You are.
Yeah. So I was living in Landover at the time and working on the Hill, and they, working for the congressman. So you think you like, that's like the preacher's kid at Vacation Bible School. You think you're gonna get some special treatment, but nah. I was a staffer for Benny Thompson at the time, and I was right in there with everybody else. I rode the bus over. I stayed in the dorm. I had the whole experience, and I think that's great. I think that's a good thing. I think that's important. I think we do that for a reason. So yeah, you will have to stay with the cohort, and that's just a part of it. You never know what conversations happen when you're up. We have folks up running or walking early in the morning, exercising. You have folks at breakfast as you were going in, and conversations that develop there. Folks during dinner. I do remember there being a bar at Potty Point. So there's, so there is at least opportunities to be social and to do things. And, but you do it there with each other. And I think it takes away from the process. It's kind of like the people who call themselves going to Memphis when we in Tunica for the policy conference. Don't go to Memphis, stay in the suite and play talk with everybody else. And so that's what this is like. It is, hey, you come in, you lock in for a week's time, and then you go home and you can get back to the hustle and bustle when it's that time. But you'll get back to it with some knowledge, with some good friends, with a good network, and I think it's absolutely worth it.
Okay. Someone else asks, maybe Andrea's more for you, are participants allowed to work during boot camp, or do you encourage participants to take off during that time?
We encourage participants to take off because it is a very intense schedule. I know Trey talked a little bit about what a day may look like with boot camp, so I don't think it's a good idea to try to work while you're doing the boot camp program. No. Would you agree, Trey?
Yeah, I agree, and I think everybody, the way people work now is so remote, and there are so many ways of doing it. I remember folks either early in the morning or at night, or if necessary, having to pull aside, do something, do a meeting. I feel like I had to pull aside for something that I was doing at the time and do something either early in the morning or late at night. Meet when the congressman came, maybe meet with him about something I had to do. And so you could work around it in ways, but yeah, no, I think it's important to take the time to be able to do or structure your day in a way where you can, if you do have responsibilities, you can take care of them before things kick off in the morning or after things in the evening.
Nice. I don't see any other questions on Instagram, so I think we're good over there.
Okay, perfect. Well, Trey, we definitely appreciate your time today. And we hope that this will be the first. We're planning for this to be the first of many live streams that we do leading up to our boot camp. For those who don't know, our boot camp this year is June the 4th through the 10th. And again, it's going to be here. Well, I say here, we're in DC, but it will definitely be in Piney Point, Maryland. For Trey's cohort and any other cohorts that are watching, if you're interested in doing one of these interviews with us, please feel free to reach out to Crispin Watson, who's our social media manager. Crispin, if you'll drop your email address on the screen, but she's kwatson@cbcinstitute.org. And aside from that, I don't think we have anything else. No more questions. Trey, again, thank you so much. Again, I got to say shout out to Grenada.
Shout out to Grenada. Yeah, absolutely. Leading the way always. And shout out Hope Goins, who's over on the committee staff, who is leading the committee staff, who's my neighbor across the street, but also a part of all of the folks from Grenada who've come through the Benny Thompson system. Trina George is one of ours that came through the Benny Thompson system. We claim, Cars likes to claim Grenada.
So we're gonna take it. We're gonna roll.
So Cars likes to claim Sweet Home Road. So we put Cars Gutter in it.
Frank
we even put Irvin in it from Duck Hill.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a strong group of us from Grenada. So shout out to Grenada. Thank y'all. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Congratulations to you both. I know you're both new in these positions. But we have seen your ability right now that you're doing this, that you're bringing the message of the Institute to social media and to Instagram and to directly into people's homes is so important for you to be able to do. The product that you're putting out already looks good. We're really excited about how the boot camp, how Tunica will look under your leadership. And y'all's team is really great so far. So congratulations to you and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Trey. I appreciate it. One other thing I want to say too while we're on is that I know you mentioned our website earlier. We do have a page on our website that's new now. It's called Hire Talent. And so we're going to start pushing through our social media the fact that we do ask campaigns to come on and let us know about jobs that they have on campaigns so that we can push that out to bootcamp graduates. And so I'll be reaching out to you to see, about a listserv. I don't know if y'all have an alumni association, but I've had a couple of people to reach out to me about one. But I do want to start working with y'all so that we can make sure that we're helping people to identify jobs on campaigns moving forward through the CBC.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And we got a lot of people who, have some good experience and that's that's an important thing we're doing, and we're having conversations about that a lot now, of how to get the talent that we have into these national campaigns, both on the day-to-day roles, but also as a part of the economics of campaigns. These campaigns are are a campaign industrial complex now, and it's millions of dollars and presidential billions of dollars that's being spent. And we have so much talent that could be a part of that conversation. And so I commend y'all for doing that. I'll definitely be sending people your way.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, that's it for me. Again, thank you so much, Trey, for doing this. Crispin, thank you for setting it up. And we will establish a cadence of these, and we'll start putting out who our next people will be. But if you got some recommendations, let us know, Trey, who we need to be talking to from your class. And
class of 2015, the way they showed up in the comments today.
Yeah. My man Cleavante has already made himself a volunteer. So if y'all get him on, he was the youngest of our group. So, but yeah, now anybody from our team, I think it's gonna be good. I think y'all should, we don't want to hog it because we're gonna all have like great things to say. But man, it's a lot of good folks on our side. So we'll give some other cohorts a chance. But if they don't step up, we'll do what we do and lead.
They don't need to step up because, like I said earlier, I know your class. I do, and I hope we gotta shout out Shauna because Shauna Tillman from Grenada did the boot camp.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Shauna was a different class, but we don't want everybody Grenada either. Shauna, we love you, but because I think we're being biased. But
leaders can't help but to lead. So that's the thing. And but yeah, no, it's good folks across the board, and we'll make suggestions to you for folks that you can talk to and especially I think we have people from such different facets, right? Like mine is, while I've done some things, it's also a little traditional in this space to go from politics to policy, running a city to doing it. So that was all political, all legal is what I do. But we have some really interesting folks with backgrounds, either in business and entertainment, in the sciences, all sorts of things. And I think it'd be good for folks to see that we come from all kinds of different places.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Perfect. Well, you've been great, and we definitely appreciate you today, Trey. You probably gonna help people hitting you up, asking you more questions, but no, thank you so much for all your support. And I know you've always supported me, so thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.
You too. Thank you.